when you are rescaling the production, be prepared for a lot of time and effort to make it happen. When you are getting to use heavy machinery, be prepared that there will be double problems.
Hi and welcome. These are the Startup Stories where we talk about startups and what makes them work. I'm your host, Szymon Adamus, and today we meet with Piotr Matuszewski from Fruitonauts, a startup that aims to create a genuine fruit-based leather equivalent. Hi, Piotr.
Hi, Szymon. Thanks for the brief introduction.
It's great to have you here. Thanks for the meet. What can you tell us about the Fruitonauts? What's more you can tell us about this project?
Listen, I think that we have to begin from the actual beginning, which has started already 10 years ago. My co-founder and partner in crime, Mateusz Toporowicz, who is also a founder of brand Geppetto in the eyewear industry, has come up with an idea of creating a leather substitute that will not imitate animal leather and will not be another artificial leather, but will consist of organic ingredients, allowing the statement of naturalness as well as it is already stated for the animal leather, but which will not use animal-based raw materials. Searching for the right sources of the material, he has identified, actually recognized the fact that fruits also have leather, as well as animals and as well as we do. And it would be a definite waste of good material if we didn't utilize them after squeezing fresh oranges. The first concept of the product was actually created for the footwear industry. But since then, the concept has evolved, and already after 8 years of conceptual works, Matt has started R&D activities together with our CTO, Łukasz Piszczyk, and they have created first samples of the product back in 2019. Since then, we have been developing the product, creating next samples, which will allow us also to use the material not only for fashion industry, but also for textiles, furniture, and automotive upholstery. And right now we are in a moment in which we are developing and constructing our first production facility and starting commercialization of the whole idea.
So if I understand it correctly, your goal is not to make something that will imitate leather one-to-one, but something that can be used like leather, but has its own properties?
More or less. Actually, right now, leather is, as you know, actually the most attractive material for for all sectors of leather goods industries in terms of its usability, its performance, and in terms of the story that stands behind it. Actually, the whole concept of creating leather goods includes, some party at least, using materials that will imitate leather of animals. Since 50s, 60s, where first artificial leathers were created, there were numerous attempts to create a material that will not utilize animal leather, but will substitute efficiently properties of animal hides. Since then, people, not only consumers but also manufacturers, realized that firstly, animal hides and animal leather production is definitely harmful, not only to the environment and to the animals, but also to us as human beings. And this is why generating more substitutes and alternatives to animal leather is such a hot topic today, and it's actually needed. Secondly, utilizing prime materials in terms of artificial leathers is not an answer in terms of creating a sustainable alternative to animal leather. This is why fruit leather and other types of alternatives, which are called right now next gen materials at this stage of development, are so important to all industries that utilize leathers. And actually there is this gap still that has to be filled in between performance and utility of animal leather and between the substitutes that are created currently. What we would like to achieve is not to substitute, as you said, animal leather, but to create new quality in terms of leather alternative material, which will be natural, utilize organic ingredients, but will not try to imitate anything.
Okay.
There are some key performance indicators that have to be met during the process, and this is where we are right now in our R&D process.
Okay, so firstly, how is leather bad to us and bad to environment? It's obvious how is it bad for animals, but how is it bad to us?
Starting with animals, it's not that obvious to everyone. Actually, animal hides are a byproduct of meat processing industry, which means that not utilizing them would be a waste of a raw material that exists in the market anyway. Still, the process behind creating a leather material and processing all the ingredients that have to be compounded together in order to obtain something usable is long, costly, and it takes a lot of harmful ingredients that are still widely used by the leather processing industry. The problem is about chromium, wastewater management, about using cheap labor of people who are working in Indonesia, Pakistan, India. This is something that has a huge concept environmentally wise and socially wise.
So I understand that it's better with substitute materials like yours.
Exactly. Even using artificial leathers is actually less harmful to the environment in terms of utilizing number and quality and quantity of resources needed for processing animal hides. But still, it is not a full answer to creating a sustainable material, which will also realize the mission of circular industry.
What's circular industry?
Circularity is about utilizing materials already existing environment, giving them an opportunity to take another life cycle, which means in our case that we are using raw materials that are a byproduct of fruit processing industry, which then can biodegrade or be reused partly for another production batch. And this is what we are trying to achieve. In terms of artificial leathers, it's doable partly, but still the market is more interested in prime materials due to their parameters. And in terms of animal hides, it's very rarely seen. Actually, it's a one life cycle that such an animal hide.
Okay.
It's quite long, but still it's very exhaustive to the environment and to health of people who are working in this industry.
So it's like, if I understand it correctly, it's like the basis of good recycling processes where you can reuse the material many times and not only once, and then recycle it for 20% maybe.
Exactly, or use the material as another product, for example, for composting, for creating another product of lower quality but still meeting requirements of customers. For example, in not in leather materials industry, but in other additives materials. So in new polymers that are created, for example, for creating packagings.
Okay. How does it work? I don't know, production or technology-wise. Can you tell us more about your material? Because when I'm thinking about, tangerine or orange or banana, I can, visualize the skin of the fruit that could be used for something else, but I have no idea how you could do it to be, sustainable, strong enough for something like a shoe or a car seat. What's the production of this kind of material, and what are the qualities of your material?
Listen, I'm always not sure how much I can share with the public.
Sure,
due
sure.
to the fact that the technological process is actually being still created. But to make it as simple as it is, we use at least 70% of fruit biomass, up to 95% in current stage, which means fruit peels. Fruit peels have to be dried first, then they have to be grinded in a small minor powder, and then they are being emulgated and coagulated with additional biopolymers and elastomers, which allow possessing the performance of the actual material. After mixing it up, it's being poured on a table, then it hardens. Outer layer is being applied on the core layer, and you have the final material consisting of 2 or 3 layers.
Mm-hmm. And is your goal to make something that is as durable as leather, or stronger, or less durable? Is it possible to make something that will last, years?
It is already undergoing, process of tests from 3 years, so even 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
First samples were created in 2019, and we have several products which have been made out of the first batches of the material. They are still undergoing tests, and they are lasting until now without, any visual defects. It always depends on the application of the material, because there are some areas such as fashion industry in which the material is being used and utilized on a daily basis, but it's not very intense, let's say. If you apply the material to the automotive industry, automotive upholstery for the seats, or upholstery for furniture, then the material has to meet definitely higher requirements in terms of durability. Right now we are undergoing also tests for these types of applications, and we will know more about if this formulation allows us to use it already in the industry or not. In terms of durability, the actual performance of the material also will be affected by the dosage of individual compounds that we are using. So we can either create a material that will be less durable, but will have a softer feel and properties demanded by the customer in terms of design, or we can create a stiff, strong material that can be applied, for example, for the floorings.
Okay.
It always depends on the aim that we would like to achieve. Right now we are we are actually preparing materials for the first pilot projects with partners from the fashion industry, and on the agenda we also have 3 pilot projects with automotive upholstery manufacturers.
So is the fashion and automotive industry your focus, or this is just testing where can you go with your technology?
Our focus is everywhere where the material can be applied, simply speaking. I know that, it sounds horrible in terms of, planning activities of a startup.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, this is how it works. We have we have started with creating a list of industries in which the material can be actually applied.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have identified potential partners with whom we could have started already discussions about conducting first pilot projects and preparing, small batches of the material for them. We are still in the process with most of the companies. Already have some first realizations with some of them, which are not commercialized yet. But it's always a matter of choice between the market in which you can sell the material massively,
Yeah, on a big scale.
yes, like in automotive industry, but where you have to create actually individual formulation for the customer, or we can also choose the way, for example, in the fashion industry, where you can simply prepare generally speaking, standard formulation that is applicable for a variety of applications. We are somewhere in between at the moment,
Okay.
having a look at one and another sector of the leather goods industry to see where will we be able to to apply the material faster and where it will be more profitable.
Okay. And do you have some realistic or maybe not so realistic, I don't know, timeline when you where you think about going, to the market? To put it simply, in I don't know 5 years, will I be able to buy a BMW or any other car with fruit-based leather seats or something
5 years
like
sounds
that?
reasonable. Listen, actually, we are preparing, as I told you, the first production line that will allow us to create
Yeah.
full sheets of the material. Right now, we are operating in the lab scale, so we are only able to prepare samples and small batches of the product.
Mm-hmm.
Starting from September, we will start commercializing the product. With which partners will it happen and what will be the timeline depends partly on us, meaning that we have to deliver, the product that the customer will actually like. Because in terms of, materials, there are two factors that are taken into account, three actually. First is the attractive design that the material has to possess in order to be, simply sellable.
Yeah.
Secondly, it has to have the performance that will allow commercialization and not jeopardize, the brand that commercializes it.
Mm-hmm.
The third factor is the price. In terms of first two, we are quite sure how to deliver the product. In terms of the pricing, we are still in the processes, so we'll have to see what is the acceptable level of pricing for our solution. But right now, from what we have researched, next gen materials are being sold in a price similar to animal leathers of good quality.
Okay. Is the fourth factor, I don't know, people's unwillingness to use something else than leather? Is leather still the king and people don't want to use anything else, or has it changed?
It is changing constantly throughout the years. Actually, if you are familiar with the evolution of vegan proteins market,
Mm-hmm.
you can recognize that the process has started already in the 80s. So the first introduction of vegan burger in USA didn't mean that everyone will switch to vegan food,
Sure.
although everyone knows that it's already know. Maybe in these years they didn't know it, that it's definitely less harmful to the environment and also to our digestive system.
Mm-hmm.
Having that said, introduction of the first next gen materials in 2014 also didn't, revolutionize the market just right ahead, but it has started the process that right now allows us to contacts partners from the biggest names of the automotive industry and of the fashion industry, and they are seriously interested in introducing new materials to the market, because not only people are recognizing that the new materials and alternatives to traditionally used leather are less harmful to the environment, but also manufacturers who know their customers and their target groups realize that people simply demand them.
I'm asking because when you study the statistics about meat consumption on Earth, there hasn't been, for the last 100 years, I think, there hasn't been a year that the meat consumption had gone down globally. We see all the trends about vegan food, vegetarianism, and etc., but the global statistics are always going up. We are eating more and more meat. I was thinking if it's the same with the use of animal leather. Yeah.
Definitely yes, but also consumption of artificial leather is higher, and consumption of leather alternatives is higher, as well as consumption of vegan foods is also growing rapidly. The consumption of any type of goods is still growing.
Sure, that's true. Just because there are more and more people, and
exactly. So it's matter of probably both education and willingness of people to make a change. Just from the guts, from the heart, but it's also depending on the supply that is available on the market. If you had a choice between vegan product and animal based product, and they will have the same qualities, they will have the same pricing, and they will be both as much attractive visually, then we can imagine, what will be the differentiation between
sure
the two products.
I believe that there will always be people that will just, don't want to use anything that isn't animal based because of many things. But if, like you said, if the price is the same, if the quality is the same, whether it's taste or durability of a boot, I think that's the basis for the progress, right? And some changes.
Probably from the perspective of mass customer, it really doesn't matter what's inside the product. Like people just like the taste or the look or the sometimes parameters, and that they will use the product that the manufacturer will offer them for a reasonable price. So I think it's a matter of growing supply in the area of alternative materials that will also affect the proportion between consumption of animal-based and vegetable-based or plant-based materials.
And is there in a further future, is there a chance that these kind of materials will be so much cheaper to produce and to use in the fashion industry or automotive, whatever, that they are going to be so much cheaper that the leather won't even stand a chance in the fight, in the from economical side of things?
There are researches conducted about it, in long term. It is possible, actually. But, to make it happen, we still have to develop the technology and be able to obtain such a scale in which the production cost will be simply lower than production cost of animal hides, which is actually quite expensive, as a matter of fact. Take into account, the amount of water and resources that have to be used in between the process. But it is probable, and story of several companies that are already existing in the market in next-gen materials industry allow us also to see that price-wise there is always a chance to make things cheaper without losing even the quality and the properties. So definitely the answer is yes.
Okay. Speaking of scale, what are the biggest challenges of going from your stage of laboratory testing to the mass production? You said that you are very close to that, and I believe that it might be very challenging. What are these challenges? What are these challenges?
Listen, there is a number of factors that have to be taken into account. Uh, Having that said, the first challenge that we have faced was actually, rescaling the production process. It has taken some time and effort to find relevant machinery and tools for being able to copy the product one to one. We have done it theoretically until now, so we'll know the outcomes after we launch the production line and see what type of material we receive in return. But this was the first challenge, and this process had to be treated with very big caution, I would say, and it has consumed quite a lot of time.
Sure.
Seemed simple, at the first glance. So when you are rescaling the production, be prepared for a lot of time and effort to make it happen. Secondly, when you are starting actually any type of production, there are some requirements that have to be met in terms of the place that will meet technical requirements. You need to simply find people who will be able to deliver the production. So this is also where we are standing right now. We have found a relevant production hall that meets all the requirements. Although there were still complications, in between the process, because when you are scaling up, machinery, you have to take also into account that the weight and energy consumption will also be much, much higher. And if you haven't done production in your life, then it may be quite surprising.
Be prepared for everything.
Exactly. And in the end, making all the dots work together, all the individual parts work together, is something that you are just trying to achieve. So I think that in any type of production there will be pretty similar challenges,
Sure.
but when you are getting to use heavy machinery, be prepared that there will be double problems.
Sure, I bet. European Union recently has ended and confirmed their plan for making Europe more green, speaking broadly. And from what I've seen and read, most of the plans concern energy consumption. Can you, as a business aspiring to do something eco-friendly, can you count on some support from EU or Polish subsidies or something like that that will, help you achieve your goals?
We have researched all available sources of financing before we have made a decision to apply for a financing from a VC fund in Poland. Also, these programs that are led by the European Union, including Horizon and other agendas. And apparently there are numerous programs used in terms of improving efficacy of energy supplies. There is a vast number of such sources of financing, but there was not even a single that was fully applicable to creating leather alternative material. So you have to meet, very strict requirements in order to be able to obtain such a financing. If you are creating, I guess, biopolymers, for example, for packaging industry, it would be already applicable.
Mm-hmm.
But, you have to be very, cautious and take attention to details when you are trying to find a relevant source of financing, because they may be close to what we are doing, but they simply are not created for us.
Okay, not perfect for you. I understand. Before we go any further, I'm very interested in going back to the beginning, because the project like Fruitonauts is businessly interesting, but I bet it might come from some, I don't know, personal goals or personal beliefs. How did it happen? Because you said at the beginning that you are working on it like for 7 years now, 8?
My co-founder, partner Mateusz was working on it. Actually, the guy behind the idea is he's an artist. Let's say he has finished the Faculty of Arts in Wrocław, and he's for whole his life actually creating concepts of products. He's playing with design and with visuals. So the whole idea was created it came from a need to create something beautiful, but simultaneously something that will solve problems of the industry in which it will be utilized. So this is how it happened.
That's actually great. A great story. I mean, the great beginning of the business, because you're trying to marriage something artistic and business. So
listen, it is always something in between, because you will not. From my perspective, I wouldn't be able to do this. To do a good business, an efficient business, without mission and without having fun about it. So Mateusz has begun playing with it. It has started with fun. For 7 years, it was only a concept that was still in the back of his head, and only after obtaining first financing for R&D, he was able to make it happen. And since then, after 3 years of conducting R&D works with our CTO, he has introduced me to the project, and I decided that this is also, something that I can take part in and that I can have fun with, simply speaking, because doing business has to be also, funny. It has to be pleasure.
Sure. That's also my opinion. You need to have a pleasure with your work, because it's like 1/3 of your life. So, come on. How many people are working now at Fruitonauts?
Currently, there are 3 members of the core team, which is myself, Mateusz, as the strategist and head designer, and Łukasz, who is a chemist and material technologist. But also we have 3 or 4 people who are dealing on a daily basis with pre-sales activities, preparing marketing materials, administration, and with supporting us in other current businesses.
So I bet you're gonna have to scale up a lot when you are going to mass production.
Definitely, but between the mass production and the production facility that we are having right now, there will also be another financing round, and also some partners included that most probably will take this part of operational activities on themselves. This is how we see it. And we'll just stick to creating the strategy and leading the company and realizing its mission as a whole.
At this point, can you estimate how much of your product you will be able to produce? Like, I don't know, will it be enough to make the whole line of, I don't know, sneakers or car seats upholstery or something like that?
With the production capacity that we are currently having, as I told you, we're only able to prepare small samples and batches for the swatch books. But with the production line that we are developing, our production capacity will rise to around 1,500 square meters per month.
Is that a lot? Is that a lot in this industry?
Much. It's actually, enough to prepare pilot projects and small batches of the products that
Okay.
have to be tested by the market. And only after, having these first crucial strategic partnerships, we'll be able to scale it up to to a capacity in which we will be able to deliver goods for the mass production.
Okay. And what about other firms? I believe that you are not, yeah, you're not the only one. Maybe you are the only one that makes try to make this kind of material of fruits, but I bet you are not the only one that are trying to do something that can be used for the lever. And is the competition very big on this market?
Listen, right now there are around 10 to 12 companies that have made first attempts of commercializing their products, and they have, for example, small, capsule collections with Nike, Adidas, Hugo Boss, and others.
That's not bad actually. 12 companies.
That's actually a lot. It's enough to for us to understand that there is demand for this type of products, that still no one has met the requirements that have to be met for being able to be a partner in terms of mass production, which is definitely an advantage for us.
Sure.
But according to reports of Material Innovation Initiative, which is the biggest and most effective organization that is trying to lead, this evolution of materials from animal-based and synthetic to plant-based, there are already around 100 startups in the world that are known by them and registered, that are dealing with similar solutions, which means textiles, fabrics, leather alternatives. But as you see, only 10% of them is able right now to deliver the material in a scale that is enough to, for example, create a pair of shoes. And there is not a single one that is already widely used.
Okay. Is there a holy grail of this industry? Something that every of these 100 companies would like to, get to?
Definitely, 100% biodegradability and compostability with performance of animal leather in terms of durability. This is something that everybody is researching and trying to achieve right now, and also.
Even for someone like me who has no idea about anything, what you do, that sounds hard.
It is hard indeed. Actually, after performing first tests on our material, we can say that we are close to it, but still there will be probably 1 or 2 years of R&D to be able to copy the actual performance and durability. Without using any additives that will not be composed of substitutes which are of chemical origin.
Okay, so fingers crossed.
But still it's 1-2% that we are dealing with right now, and hopefully we will deal with it sooner than later.
Going to the bigger questions, what are the biggest challenges in the fight for animal rights and the environment?
It's a very tough question. Like, you are asking me as a human being or as a startupist?
I think both.
So, listen, there will always be, supply of animal-based raw materials, unless there will be more efficient methods of creating fully available proteins for human beings. That's first of all. After this, there will also come a shortage of other types of raw materials, such as animal hides and furs, that will not be in the market anymore, so there will not be any byproducts that can be used. So I think there's this evolution have to still come slowly from the basic level of education, which is already widely available, but it doesn't appeal to everyone yet. I'm not fully vegan myself, to be honest. I am, cutting my meat consumption on a daily basis, which means that I eat meat only on occasions on which I don't have any other choice, to be speaking, like meeting my grandma at her house.
Yeah. Polish grandmas are not very keen to go full vegan.
So you see, there are people who will never change, but maybe there is no need to change their attitude. Like if there will be a minority, it will already be a great achievement. And if the demand for meat-based products will come down, the supply also will be shortened. So it has to evolve slowly.
Yeah.
We as startupists and as businessmen, we have to be able to deliver products which will not even substitute the meat and animal-based products, but we should offer new values and attractivity to the final consumers.
I believe that's very wise, because at the end of the day, it would be foolish to believe that people or giant corporations or whatever are going to change their minds or ways of doing things, doing business, just because it's good for environment, animals, or whatever. It's not going to happen like that.
Listen, it's always somewhere in between again. Like there are agendas, for example, for cutting the supply of meat-based materials, and but not due to the fact that it's harmful to animals, but because there are many civilizational diseases that are a result of our daily diets.
Okay.
This is something that also takes a part and big role. Like regulations are needed for improving the efficacy of this evolution.
Yeah.
But it's always a matter of profitability. If the product sells, there will always be someone who will be selling it.
Yeah.
Shortage of demand will simply affect the final level of consumption of animal-based materials.
Plus, there will always be, not a backlash, but the meat producers or the leather producers are not going to go quietly, right? So we've already seen that in the US and in Europe also. Every time someone even suggests cutting down meat or making next tax to tax meat production or something like that, to for example make the process less energy
more energy efficient.
Yeah, exactly. There is always a giant backlash on the social media that is, I believe, driven mostly by the big business that doesn't want to go quietly, like I said.
Obviously, but they're also not stupid. If they see that the product doesn't sell, or the sales are not high enough, they will try to find another way to make profit. So if the profit can come from vegan or plant-based materials, that's fair enough for them as well. I don't think that there are maybe there exist such people, but I don't know them personally. Like orthodox meat eaters, maybe in US, but orthodox animal leather users. If you get something in advance, you don't resign from anything. This is how it works.
Yeah. I think it's true. We've seen similar processes in Poland or even in the whole Europe with plastic bags. It was something very tangible, because every one of us experienced it, and there were people who said that they would never use something different than plastic. Yeah. For a bag in the shop because it's not going to be practical. And skipping 3 years or 4 years to the future, it turned out not to be a problem at all. The bag, the paper bag just needs to be good. If it's good enough, that's not even a problem.
Exactly, or the plastic has to be recycled right now. So
Yeah,
you see,
yeah.
so this is an evolution that that is already happening, also in the food industry and as well in materials industry, and being a part of this revolution is quite a big thing.
Sure. Going to our next subject, you have some experience in obtaining international patent. Can you tell us more about that? How to get one? What does it give you as a business, etc.?
Listen, to begin with, patents are very important for creating good PR of a small startup. So to begin with, this is something a strong IP or at least defendable IP is definitely great advantage of a small business that seeks for the financing. It's very good to have one, but also there is an art of creating patents that is a compromise between sharing some part of the secret sauce and keeping the most strategic information for yourself. You have to simply find a relevant partner for writing the patent because we have the guy who has written it himself with a small help of the patent office, patent attorney. But he just knew what he is doing because he is doing it, for I don't know, 5th or even 10th iteration. Having at least one patent is good for the beginning, but after you have first part of your defendable IP, you can stop here. Actually, it's very wise to create other further documents.
Okay.
You see example of big chemical companies or other industries that are always generating more and more patents to have more and more IP that they can use solely for their usage.
If you are a big player on any market, I think it's easier to use a patent as a shield against counterfeits or something like that. But if you are a small startup, like Fruitonauts, does it realistically help you in a business sense, or is it mostly, like you said, for a PR?
It's a part of a strategy of building a company and of building its strong IP and its market value, actually. As I told you, first patent was the case for which we have been, introduced to many investors which were interested in, learning more about the solution. And they said that defendable IP and ability of protecting, the technology in terms of, possibility of reverse engineering is crucial in deep tech projects. So this is something that has to be taken into account. And also, creating this IP gives you simply a feeling of reliability in front of your partners. If you know how to defend your IP, you will also know how to defend your further ideas, and you will know how to protect their interests if they are your partners.
Are there downsides of attending for getting a patent?
Yes, if you share the whole knowledge. So
Okay.
you shouldn't do this, simply speaking. You have to create a patent in a way that it will be defendable in front of the European Patent Office, for example, or Polish Patent Office, but you shouldn't, share everything because this is your knowledge.
Sure. There are always two last questions that I ask everyone that I'm speaking to, and the first one of them is about the managing style of a business. Can you tell us more? What is your philosophy here? What is your managing style, and how does it help you to build a great startup?
When you told me, in our call before the discussion that you will ask this question, I simply had no idea what to answer because listen, I have studied, in Warsaw University, in Warsaw School of Economics, have learned about a lot of, management styles that can be applicable both for, SMEs, startups, and, lean projects, but there is no one that I can name, that we purely use. Like, it's a mixture of lean management, just in time, but simply you have to, answer the needs of the project. We are operating as two co-founders together with Mateusz. So, the most important part of, managing rest of the crew is having daily meetings. I think that this is most important. Communication is simply the most important part of leading any type of company and of a startup. Indeed, it's the basis. Sharing the knowledge and competences, it's crucial. And when you are already coming up with an idea of a product, and you get into the area in which you are thinking of how to develop it and commercialize it, you already have to have at least an idea of people who can be active operationally. Because even though I love working on different areas and being present in any area of our activities, we are not physically able
Sure.
to do this efficiently on a daily basis, and even if we did it, we wouldn't be as much efficient as one or two people who will be dedicated and focused on one area. So yeah, share, communicate, and simply not take everything on your head. Like, you have to be surrounded by people who you trust and on whom you can count in terms of delivering the ideas and concepts that you create.
That's great. And throughout these years, did you learn something that you should never do, absolutely never do?
Yeah, maybe several things.
Welcome to the startup world.
Exactly. We are always learning. Like, I know numerous, startupists who have 2 or 3 projects and they are still in the process. So yes, I think that you should never think that you already know everything.
Okay, that's great. Yeah. That's great for business and for life.
Exactly, and it's fully applicable here. Always be cautious about everything you do, and when you have this feeling that you could have skipped something, or something came out from your mind, just make sure what was it and if it was not crucial before you make any further steps. If you think that something can go wrong, it will go wrong for 99%. So, prepare yourself and all the team for what can happen. It's definitely better, to make some, preparations and spend even more time, on discussions than, after setting up the fire, trying to, distinguish it. It doesn't work good for the company.
Sure. That's actually an answer for my last question for you, but maybe you will give a better one. What's your advice for new startups?
In which stage? For those who are just coming off with the concept, or for those who are, collecting seed round?
Let's say at the beginning.
Find firstly, understand your product and market and audience. That's quite obvious, and that's something that you learn, on an incubation and, from anyone who leads a company. Learn about your weaknesses, about your own strengths, and where you are really operational, and what is your value to the project besides the fact that you have the idea, because someone will have to finally deliver it. And most of the startups, there are several areas in which they collapse and in which they can not succeed. But from what I see from my partners' projects and from the projects in which I have taken part, there is always a problem of filling the gap of competences and of identifying them firstly.
Okay.
So you have to simply treat your startup, your company, your baby, as a growing organism, which will need all the organs to be able to function. Without being able to fill in the competence gaps or time gaps or money shortages, you will not be able to do anything. First, take care of yourself as a founder, and think of how you can make this whole project and your concept come to life in a way that is comfortable for you, and then find people which will also share the vision and who will be eager to accompany you.
Okay, that's great. Okay, that's everything from my side. If you have anything to add, that's the time.
Listen, I think that I'm not the perfect person to
No one is, so
exactly to attend such a podcast, but I think that the most important part of our lives, and also of leading a startup, of being a actual member of a small company, is to learn constantly. So to whoever will listen to our discussion, I strongly believe that they can take something from it, and I will be grateful also for sharing their own experiences, and I'm looking forward to hearing from you, Szymon, and from people who also are eager to share what
Sure.
they have to share.
Like you said, we are here. We all of us are here to learn and to learn new things and get better at what we do. So, yeah. Thanks a lot, Piotr, and best of luck for you in going from laboratory to mass production. I hope I will be able to buy sneakers, a jacket, and a car with leather seats from your company in, I don't know, maybe 10 years.
Coming soon.
Great, thanks. These were the startup stories. If you liked this episode, please share, like, and subscribe. And as always, have a great day.